Hey, it's Sam, and I'm sitting here in Central Park making a video for the upcoming week. Got some very interesting configurations happening. First of all, Venus stopped going retrograde on Sunday, the 6th. It's what's called stationary direct, so it's not really moving forward yet, it's just no longer moving backwards. So it's basically like stationary, about to go direct. So since June 21st, when Venus first went over this portion of the zodiac, there's been a lot of sort of back and forth and corrections relative to your relationships and your interactions with all others. So you've probably felt some reversals and some real introspection, or at least a very visceral awakening to your dealings with others, how you actually deal with others, which has compelled you to really make some changes and introspect. That's what the Venus retrograde has been about. This may have literally brought you into past relationships with past lovers, or maybe just revisiting the issues of the past. Those things could have been pretty important for the last, since June 21st. As soon as I start, a helicopter flies overhead, so that's passing now. So that's a long-term trend that's just sort of reversed or stopped. So no more Venus retrograde, it's stationary, but it might feel like a lot of the situations that got opened up are kind of stuck. Like, okay, where is this going to go? Is it going to move forward or backward, or where is it going? So you might feel quite a bit of that this week, as Venus is not really moving forward again yet. It's also still joined Mars in Cancer, so there's still some volatility, potentially with all of those themes. Also a lot of passion. Mars-Venus conjunction leads to a lot of literally like sexual passion, and so you might find, you might be finding some of those things are also pulling you into, a new relationship experience. Sexual passion and desire for those things are also, perhaps part of the mix right now as you're working through these Venus themes. Other things this week, though, we're going to have the moon is working toward, we're actually moving toward a solar eclipse. We're going to have the solar eclipse on September 13th, early in the morning. Sunday, September 13th, early in the morning. We'll have the solar eclipse. Now, it's an interesting one. Of course, I'll do a whole extra video on the eclipse, but it's going to have, the sun's going to be eclipsed in Leo, even though Rahu is in Virgo. So when you have this eclipse where the node is in a different place than the sun, it's a special kind of consideration. So I'll talk about that in a later video this week. But we are moving toward an eclipse, so the moon is waning, it's getting darker this week. So relative to that, we're going to have the moon in Cancer in its own sign, join that Venus and Mars on September 8th, 9th, and 10th, primarily. So that's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to have the moon in Cancer join that Venus and Mars. So, when the moon is in Cancer, we're quite emotional and sensitive and intuitive, and, perhaps more so than we even need to be at times, but it's an opportunity for us to be anchored in the heart, in our own feeling state, rather than riding up and down on the waves of emotion, which is how we tend to experience our heart. It's through the emotions rather than through the pure love. The pure love in our heart is always within us. It's always available to us. When we try to connect that to something external, it generates a lot of emotions. You want to understand what the emotions are relative to what that pure feeling and that pure love is. Many people don't even know that there's a difference. So you have to know the difference, and the difference is that that pure love in your heart is totally within you, and it's totally dependent upon you to find it. Only you can be connected to your own heart. No one else can connect you to your heart. No one else can connect you to that, and when you are in contact and when you are connected with your own heart, there's deep peace. And that deep peace is what the moon shows. In many ways, the moon shows our capacity for peace of mind. That's actually the highest quality of the moon, is peace of mind. And again, that only comes when we are connected to it within ourselves. That's why the moon is internal, reflective, feminine. We have to find that peace of mind in our own heart. And anyway, in any situation where we're not peaceful, there's emotion. So when we think our peace and our love and our joy comes from something external, it generates a lot of stress, and we are no longer peaceful. Instead, we're emotional about it. Happy when we get it, sad when we don't. Even when we get it, we're afraid it's going to get taken away. That's emotion, and that's the emotional fear and worry and stress of the moon. So in Cancer, it's very easy to be established in our heart, but again, it's going to be joined, this debilitated Mars, also joined Venus. So it means Mars is there, which wants us to be personally strong, individually strong, and fight to destroy what's making us weak. So this really disrupts that quality of Cancer, which is about peace. And Venus is also there, which generates a lot of desire for happiness, mainly from others and external sources and the senses. Again, so there's a lot of volatile energy in Cancer right now, and the moon is going to experience that, or will experience that September 8th, 9th, and 10th, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So for the most part, on the 7th, on Monday, moon is in Gemini, so that's good for study, information, communication, flexibility. And then as I say, the 11th, 12th, into the 13th, the moon will be in Leo. And it's going to eclipse the sun early morning on the 13th. And that eclipse is going to happen in Uttara Falguni. I'll talk more about the eclipse, but later in the week when the moon goes into Leo, it's more about individual power, individual strength, and it's also joined Jupiter. So the second part of the week, quite different than the first part. Moon in Cancer joined Venus and Mars, can bring a lot of desire, quite a bit of emotionality, sentimentality, desire for connection. And then moon goes into Leo later in the week, and it's more individuality, more fiery individuality. It's joined Jupiter, which is big, dramatic expressions, dramatic displays. And by the way, Jupiter is still combust, so we're going to feel that combustion of Jupiter as well. As I talked about a while ago, Jupiter is combust, which means it's very close to the sun. It's on the other side of the sun. So when the planet is combust, when the outer planets are combust, they're always on the opposite side of the sun. So Jupiter is as far away from the Earth as it can be right now. It's on the other side of the sun, so its rays are getting purified through the sun. But what this tends to do is make us doubt our teachers, challenge our teachers, look for our teachings to be purified. And again, sometimes this makes us fight with our teachers, argue with them. Sometimes it just makes us really focus and concentrate and get clear about what our teachers mean and purify the impurities of our teachings and of our capacity to comprehend them. And a lot of times our teachers might be right on, but we lack the capacity to really comprehend what they mean. I know my students have told me many times that, when they heard this course, when they heard a certain course the first time, or they heard a certain reading the first time, they didn't really get it anywhere near as much as when they listened to it the second time or the third time. And it's because they've changed. They've matured a little bit more, and they heard the first time they heard it through their own level of understanding. Second time, their level of understanding had changed, and on and on. So as you evolve, your connections to your teachings also evolve, and to your teachers also evolve. When a great yoga master, a great enlightened being speaks of something like consciousness, or awareness, or spirit, it's very different. The way they experience consciousness and awareness is very different than the way you and I experience consciousness and awareness. We might get a glimmer of pure consciousness, of pure peace and stillness, but to a Sadguru, an enlightened being, that's their natural state. It's called Sahaja Samadhi. They're always established in the divine. So they speak from a level of experience that we don't have. So you always have to put yourself as the listener. You always have to consider that as part of the experience of how much you can learn from a certain teacher. And teachers, when they're a good teacher, they can speak to all levels at the same time, because universal principles tend to reach everybody. But you want to ponder these things if you've been having some issues with your teachers or your teachings, or you're wondering about going deeper into certain teachings. Realize that your capacity to comprehend teachings also has to do with you. And so now there's a time, it's a time of really purifying a lot of those things. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the main themes of the week. Particularly the big shift is that Venus is no longer retrograde. It's going to start moving forward again. So we can really start moving forward with a lot of these themes that we've been reflecting on as they relate to other people, as they relate to our romantic relationships, our capacity to compromise and to honor other people's wishes equal to our own, and things like that. Honor people's wishes in the same way we would like to be honored. Those have been big themes since the beginning of the summer, since June 21st. Getting close to 2 months. Venus is retrograde for 40 days. But then before she passes through this kind of like shadow period where she goes over the same territory 3 times. She covered it once, she went retrograde back over it. Now she's about to go back over it again. About to take the 3rd pass over these themes. So between now and October, it's like October 10th, I think, look for some resolution around these issues. So anyway, have a great week, share this with people, and we'll be in touch. Wow, look at this. Look at this.